very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us on the headline news analysis. We're set for the conversations this morning. My name is Adedayo, Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
And how's your trip down here as well?
Oh, well, cool.
All right.
Yeah.
The headline news analysis is a platform created by FlowFM for you to be able to have your say and make comments on any of the news stories that were brought to you at 7 or anyone that you see in the national dailies. We just have a few rules on the program as per usual. We do not give in to any logical fallacies, and any news that you're bringing up must be from verifiable sources as well. Everyone has a space of 1 minute to make their comment. You can call 0807-777-9927. Again, 0807-777-9927. You can also send your messages via Facebook or on YouTube as comments or on WhatsApp as well. The views to be expressed is not in any way the position of FlowFM 92.7 or the staff therein, but as expressed by our in-house analyst, Nicholas Uwerunonye. You already know we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook as well at FlowFM 927, so you can join the conversation via that as well. Let's get right into the stories this morning. Well, as the strike has entered into the second day of their industrial action as a result of the non-implementation of their demands by federal government. The federal government has directed vice chancellors of all federal universities to comply and submit detailed attendance and compliance reports following the commencement of the 2-week nationwide strike by ASU. Now, the federal government mandates that universities conduct physical head counts of academic staff to determine those who are working and those who have joined the strike. It also restates the government's decision to enforce the no work, no pay policy, warning that salaries of staff who fail to perform their duties will be withheld for the duration of the strike. You mentioned it yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Now they're putting their foot.
Apparently, as far as university system is concerned, the more things change, the more they look the same. And what this goes to show is that we are really good students of history in this country. This no work, no rule thing, has a long history. And I can assure you that it began from right here in Ilorin, University of Ilorin precisely. And there was this long strike, that resulted in the expurgation of, illegal expurgation of about 49 lecturers plus, And one of the first steps that was implemented by the then Vice Chancellor was the no work, no, open up registers and things like that. I recall that my former, dean, of the faculty, late Professor Adeyemi, I still have his letter, one of the letters he wrote to the Vice Chancellor, warning that, it doesn't solve the problem. Rather, it creates an ugly precedent. I remember that letter, and, because I covered the incident extensively. And, what I discovered was that, you see, most of this thing, more or less, is like we are playing federal government, agents within the federal government are playing to the hands of people with certain interest to see that the Nigerian university does not work. Because I recall at that time, too, that there was this issue of NUSIP, Nigerian University System Innovation Project, that was being proposed by either World Bank, I think it's World Bank. And I recall, also talking to Obadiah Tohomdet, the former public affairs analyst of World Bank in Ibadan at that time. And we spoke extensively on why it is so important to force that project on Nigeria. ASU refused it, And at that time, President Obasanjo was peeved, that they wouldn't accept. It was supposed to be a 50 billion, a loan from World Bank to innovate universities, but with conditions. The conditions being that the kind of courses that will be taught in university will be determined, by World Bank. So, they were thinking that Nigeria, mostly African countries, are not ripe for university education. That was the entire essence of this whole thing. So, over the years, of course, the expurgation of those lecturers, the 8-year, court, it has, in a way, has kind of created a precedent, an ugly precedent that most government after Obasanjo have been following. They've been following that template, to breathe down the neck of ASU. But you see, the question I would have loved them to ask themselves was, if those measures were successful, where is our university now? Is it competitive? Was it better? As a matter of fact, the lack of trust in the university system started from there because, when other universities, lecturers saw what happened in the University of Ilorin, they knew there was no job security in Nigeria anymore, any in Nigerian universities anymore. So that was where the Japa syndrome started. The moment you get, you get a calling out of Nigeria, you move and you don't come back. So that is the beginning of the decay, and that is most unfortunate. To even think that the people who were actually in support of those 49 back then, the Lagos, elites, are now in power and doing exactly the same thing they condemned in the past, is one of those ironies that kind of confounds and confuses at the same time about Nigeria. I read the report this morning, and I was kind of it's more or less you kind of feel this sense of deja vu, an out of body experience, going back then and coming back, wondering whether anything has really changed. So, but for me, I think that this time I think ASU is well prepared. I think they are well prepared and they are not going to back down.
Nicholas, if you look at it's we are in a situation, honestly.
Yeah.
It does look terrible because, again, the no work, no policy appears not to threaten the ASU as a body, coming from, their body reaction and then statement coming from some of the stakeholders. If you recall that the other strike they embarked upon, the 9 months, some of them were not paid for that 9 months, and then they kept on the struggle. That's not where I'm going. My question is, we've had ministers of education in the past. I remember vividly a professor,
Adeyemi,
a former, and I in fact I watched his. I remember his screening at the Senate at the time when he was being screened. As he was a nominee, a ministerial nominee at the time, and I watched it and I remember. And then it gave like a sigh of relief was coming, to the education, sector. That here is an educator, somebody who's passed through the whole system. But we know and we remember what happened. We've had people from education sit on that ministry, but still we have this problem.
Yeah, I think the problem.
My question is it at the doorstep of the minister to handle, this, or? Because if you recall the 9 months, strike, there was a time where the then president was asked to be briefed, regularly on the ASU situation. So is it that the presidents are not in the know, the exact know of what the situation is, or is just some at the step of the Minister of Education? Well, you can handle it. It's your ministry. You can handle it.
Well, the best way I can put it is this: what does a minister do anyway? Can we say he's actually the CEO of that ministry? The answer is no. The chief operating officer is actually the PAMSEC, the civil servant. You understand? What he's there to interpret is the policy of the federal government, of his principal, which is so. But if you have, a principal who has his own personal interest, what he thinks should be the direction, there's absolutely nothing the minister can do. Absolutely nothing can do outside. But you see, there used to be a time when we had ministers who have their own mind and they tell their principal that, look, if I'm coming on board, this and this and this are the things that I want done. We have a very good example in Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who spelled out her conditions for coming to SAN. And of course, there was one Olujimi too. Foreign affairs.
We remember, the late NAFDAC DG.
The NAFDAC DG. So they had, they spelled out the conditions, And again, it boils down on the kind of man that is in charge. You understand? Is it the kind of person that say, okay, look, give me a detailed proposal on how to lift Nigerian educational system from point A to point B, workable. This thing, let me see within my resources if I can take you on. These are the things you do in the corporate world. These are the normal things you do that are taken as normal in the corporate world. I recall that even as just a reporter, a journalist, before, there was one employment I was given, as an editor of a national daily, in Abuja, before I was brought in as a news editor. But I got there was a lot of change. They said I should go and sit down and do them a proposal on how to move us, and if I were to be an editor. I didn't know they were testing. I thought they wanted to use it for something, and before I knew what was happening, I was appointed as the editor of the paper. So it's a normal thing. But I think, by and large, that the moment you become a president in Nigeria, it's about a rank candidate thing. You'll be like a king. It's your whim. It's not about the people. So that is why you have this kind of scenario. I think if you ask Alausa, privately, what he really thinks about what is wrong with Nigeria, you'll probably be shocked at the kind of answers you're going to get. If he's to speak personally, his personal view. But when he gets into, and they tell him that, look, this is where our priority lies. So within the limited resources that government is willing to give him, he has to work within that limited resources. But what some of us are contending is that what other priority can be better than those human development indexes? Things that make the quality of life better for the average Nigerian. That is the question. That is where the conundrum is. You understand? So the unwillingness of, government, and a lot of people who are in government, because at the end of the day, when you look at who are those who patronize Nigerian universities anyway,
they're Nigerians.
Who are those?
Because I was going to ask you this.
Because it's just children of you and I that go there.
Look, listen to this. If you look at the education sector as a whole, we're going to say, can the private sector step in? Yes, the private sector have stepped into education.
They've stepped in.
And we know what the disparity is
in terms
from the what do we call them? The tuition crèche, pre-nursery and primary education, secondary education.
So how many?
Tertiary education right now. For me, I think that another way, if government feels that the federal and state universities, as at now, have not been, pulling their weight, they feel that there is a reason why they cannot listen to them. There is nothing stopping them from partnering private sectors in terms of funding them properly, so that there can be rebates in their, because they will better manage resources. I'll give you a very good example. Thomas Adeyemi has a partnership with Kwara State government with their use of the General Hospital in Ofa as a teaching hospital. Those are the kind of things we are looking forward to. Those are Bowen University has a partnership with Ladoke
Akintola University. You understand? So you see, it's a government private sector participation. We could have something like that. You expand it so that maybe when all these federal universities, if you feel they are not doing enough, they can feel competitive enough so that they can clean up their act. That is if there are issues there. But I don't see any issue really, because where you have a union like ASU, by and large, that's about the only union I have any interest in anyway in Nigeria. Because they have a systematized, it has stood the test of time in terms of policy enunciation, policy critiquing, and providing solutions to the many challenges of Nigerian educational system. So I will always go back to them. I will always trust them because they have proven, people you can really trust. On this matter.
So, but from what you just said, what do you think would possibly play out in all of this situation with ASU and federal government bringing up this no work, no pay, ASU refusing, to stop the industrial action? Obviously, students are they're the ones going to get the brunt of all of these things.
Yeah, what I see playing out is a kind of attrition war. That is what you're going to see.
That will go on for months?
Probably. Yeah, but I think they said it's 2 weeks, right?
It's just one strike.
One strike. So let's see what happens after 2 weeks.
All right, let's take this call. Okay. Sorry, it looks like we lost it. 0807-777-9927 is the number to call to be part of the conversation this morning.
All right. You can also drop your comment via WhatsApp as well to 0807-777-9927. Let's try the phone line again. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
What is your name and where you calling from?
Hello,
yes,
good morning.
We can feel the excitement in his voice. Good morning to you. What's your name?
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Good morning. We're live. We can hear you loud and clear.
Hello, good morning, FlowFM.
Good morning to you.
Hello.
All right, please try and connect back or check the line as well to 0807-777-9927. We can feel the excitement in his voice.
Exactly.
I'm connected today, but hey, sadly, we couldn't just get from both ends.
He couldn't hear us. It's okay. All right, let's move to another news story real quick. Nigeria's next presidential and governorship elections are likely to be held in November 2026, following a new proposal by the National Assembly to move the polls 6 months earlier than usual. They seek to ensure that all elections petitions are concluded before May 29, 2027, the handover date. So they want to do it November. It'd be like just like the U.S. elections. It'll happen in November, and then it would be spaced like 185 days before the handover, just in case there are any,
election petition.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that is another way of it, because all those election petitions thing causes distraction for the incumbent. Yeah, that is number one. Then two, the moment he's there, he has started dispensing. It is assumed that he start dispensing favors, and of course making new friends, and a change of minds here and there. And before you know what's happening, his presence in power could sway sentiments, whether whether plus or minus. Every decision is about sentiment, really, at the end of the day. So, to a very large extent, I think it's a welcome development if they can do it, because there has been calls, steady calls, on things like that, that before you are sworn in, there should be, they should have settled with all outstanding court cases, so that the man who is sworn in as a governor or president, has no distraction whatsoever.
All right, Nicholas, how about situation? Okay, let's go for the call.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. You're live on FlowFM. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Eugene from Fati.
All right, Eugene from Fati. It's good to have you. Good morning. Please go right ahead.
Yes, Dayo, please permit me to do your fine radio, good radio. So please, for God's sake, Nicholas is here. He will understand what I'm about to say. December is here. So many of us may be heading home, southeast. For God's sake, let me use this media to appeal to Mr. President. For God's sake, let Nnamdi Kanu go. So for us to have easy access for Christmas home. So many of us fear to go home. Why? Because of continual detention of this young man. I thank God for him, Mr. President. He has pardoned so many people, even criminals, bandits. Listen, for God's sake, for the sake of people who may want to go home to join people at home by Christmas. Let him release this guy. Let me even add in my voice to that of Shitta-Bey. Shitta-Bey has been appealing. Let this man be released, for God's sake. I'm using your radio to appeal to Mr. President this morning. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right.
FlowFM.
All right, thank you, Jim, for your your concern this morning. This was expressed, as well expressed. But anyways, we take public conversations on the program as well, too, as his heart and its concerns us. Well, the prerogative of that is left for the executive to deal with. But here it is, the masses, of course, again, is just raising its head.
Yeah, so. And again, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu is a political situation. It is, it's very, very complicated. You understand? And secondly, he hasn't convicted of anything. So, there is that argument in law that if the president comes in now, it will appear preemptive. You understand? It will appear preemptive. It will mean that the president is interfering in the work of the judiciary. But again, you see, it also speaks of an indictment on the judiciary itself, delaying the judicial process up to this level. We had the case of Simon Ekpa in Finland.
In Finland, yeah.
How many months did it take them to convict him of 6 years in prison?
And then, of course, some, wrong for the extradition. But again, on the other side, just some briefly to touch on that and then move on to another story.
Yeah.
Do you think that just like what Jim has said, do you think that his continued detention is what is causing the unrest in the southeast? And of course, if he sets free, do you think will calm the situation? One, secondly, can there be maybe place him under house arrest or something?
Well, it is very difficult to say now, but you see, I think it will take the sail out of any kind of, it will take the wind out of the sail of the agitation. You understand? Because you see, when people like Sowore and a lot of people, Atiku Abubakar, are now talking, they are holding on to the plank that this is victimization. People who arm themselves and levy war on Nigeria are being discussed with, have been negotiated with. Whereas a man came with a self-determination agenda and he's been in prison all this while. And he's not the only one who has done it anyway. You have the case of, what's the name of this other guy from the Southwest who was arrested in Benin Republic. So he's there walking free. You understand? Even though, well, he's been appealing that they should remove his name from wanted list. But it's very clear nobody wants to put him, And there has been instances before when Gani Adams, they were released.
But they were. If you consider that of Sunday Igboho that you're referring to, and that of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, they are two different.
How?
They're not parallel.
How?
It's away from our conversation.
I know, but
again, in the manner in which it was done, if we're going to go down history or memory lane, there's a clear difference in a way.
Well, since you said it's not a conversation for today, maybe we'll leave it. But because I would like to know how they are not different, how they are different. Because
there might be calls. There are elements of similarity. You understand? But again, it's a call for self-determination.
It's a call
but the manner in which it was done is quite different. If you look at that.
Self-determination is something whichever way you want to follow it. Some might decide to go by way of peaceful demonstration and the rest of it, and some might decide to start a militia movement. You understand, as a means of self-determination. It doesn't matter, but the issue is self-determination. But by and large, my idea is that I think that what Nnamdi Kanu touched on is something very, very critical, and people who are major stakeholders of Nigeria will not permit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he touched on something that is very, very severe. You understand? And a very good example of what would have happened, if Nigeria was, there was a case of this Soyinka in London. Forgotten the name of that, something Soyinka, something like that. He's serving a jail term there. He was about the same thing to separatists, but the UK said, no, you can't do that here. You can't propagate hate message here. And he's in jail. You understand? So we have examples of, decisive decisions by judiciaries across the world. So we are only saying that, look, if you don't have the mind to prosecute him, then release him or put him on house arrest. Anything, So that it does not appear that when you belong to one section of the country and you commit one sin, it is overlooked. But when you come from the other side of Nigeria and you commit one, you become a major public enemy number one. So
all right 0807 777 9927. Still on the elections conversation, the federal government has urged Nigerian youth to take full advantage of the ongoing voter registration exercise and participate actively in the democratic process, describing their involvement as essential to strengthening governance and promoting inclusive national development.
Well, that's a good call, really. But you see, we've been hearing that call, participate in, a democratic process and things like that.
What does it count?
Yeah, the count, things like that. But my take is the structures you put in place, how encouraging are they? How encouraging are they? How encouraging are all those structures that you put in place to bring them on board? And to a very large extent, when I look at the conversations on Twitter and Twitter Spaces these days, I'm kind of worried, at the kind of things that our youth are spewing. What I can say is we have an exceptionally angry generation. See what is happening in
Madagascar?
These are
Raulina.
The only thing that is stopping that from happening in Nigeria is because it's just, a cacophony of voices. They haven't found a unity of purpose. You understand? And as much as it's a time bomb on its own, the mere fact that they haven't found can make it even more dangerous. So to a very large extent, I think for some of us who are within the 50s, there is a need to heed to what Professor Dinkalo said, that if you are above 50, look for a young person to mentor. Because the truth is, once you are above 50, we are already finished. We are just on the departure lounge, So you look for somebody, to mentor, set on the right path. And maybe that is what that call is all about. And that in my own small way, I try to do it with especially young journalists that I see, try to get them to see things properly from, clear perspectives,
All right. Interesting. 0807 777 9927. Let's go to Akwa Ibom to stay this morning. Go to Lakwabio Stadium. And that's the World Cup qualifiers, the Super Eagles against Benin Republic. Nicholas, we're currently third in Group C. And what are our chances today? A tough one.
A very tough one. A very, very tough one. And you see, there's this thing about me. As much as I'm passionate about Super Eagles, passionate about our local football, I have this sense of fairness. In all honesty, should we really qualify? How can you lose 4 straight games? You play 4 straight games. How many games from a possible 12? We got just 3 points. And you want to qualify from that group stage. And of course, there has been a lot of tinkering, with the withdrawal of Eritrea, which gives us a fighting chance. But you see, if Nigeria cannot beat Benin Republic, at least 3-0.
Well, we've done it before, and it can still happen.
Yeah. If we cannot beat them at least 3-0, then I don't think we should go. Because you see, a lot of ex-internationals have been talking for a while. I listened to Sunday Olise. He said so many things of, how we got here. You understand? And I saw a lot of podcasts. There was one particular one I saw yesterday. I was looking at, bits and pieces. I was looking at the whole thing. And the man, it was more like a prophet. How the whole thing degenerated because of personal interest of some people within the NFF. And the Ministry of Sports at that time, they deliberately stymied the growth of football in Nigeria just because of selfish interest. The man recounted everything, and he now started pointing out why it looks so difficult. It's not as if we don't have the players to deliver the goods. We have them, but the problem is how committed are they? You have a bunch of players who are more like social influencers these days. Everyone has a Twitter handle where they post videos and the rest of them. They are more concerned about its stardom than actual playing on the field. How many times do you see Messi on WhatsApp or anything, on Instagram and the rest of them? And these are fantastic players. Ronaldo. And both are captains of their national team, and they have won laurels. They've won trophies, So, but you see, it tells you of the kind of priority some of these guys have for playing for their country. If you look at it, and I think where the degradation started from was on the part of the player was bringing in people who were rejected by all these European countries. They just saw Nigeria as a stopgap measure of getting to play in the World Cup, and they come in here. That kind of zest and hunger is not there. It's no longer there. But again, as the NFF had no choice to go elsewhere because our own league too has deteriorated. They didn't grow their league very well. We didn't grow our league very well. We didn't grow our football. We didn't develop it very well. So we depend on people to develop our players.
All right. So what is it for the Super Eagles? Because again, South Africa is leading that group.
He's leading that group. Yeah.
17 points.
And even after home. They are playing home to
against Rwanda. So what happens?
The irony.
We need to go. Our time is suspended.
Okay. Correct.
Close your thoughts.
Okay. Yeah.
In a few seconds.
Ironically, you see, in 2008, it was the same Rwanda that decided our fate. You understand? When Angola went in our stead, it was the same Rwanda. So we are hoping that this time Rwanda will get it right. That's what we are hoping. So,
all right then. Yeah. Our time is fast spent. We can't take any more comments. Thank you so much for joining us on the Headline News Analysis. We'll be back to your ears tomorrow, God willing. The views expressed is not in any way the position of FlowFM 92.7 or the staff therein, but is expressed by our in-house analyst, Nicholas Uwerunonye. I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey.
And I am Adedayo Adeyemi. Thank you for joining us.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day.